Hey, today I would like to talk about evaluating expressions using a t-chart. So let's look at one. This is our typical t-chart. And what we need to understand is what the t-chart says. Well, a t-chart always says the following. It says if x is negative 2, then 2x plus 3 is what? That's what a t-chart says. So basically what we have is we're taking this x value or this series of x values and we're going to plug them into this expression to see what their value would be. Okay? And that's what I'd like for us to do on this particular one. So the first time when we look at if x is negative 2, we're going to take the negative 2 and plug it into 2x plus 3. So we're going to do that out here to the side. So we're going to do 2 times whatever the x is, and in this case the first times through is negative 2, and then we're going to add 3. Now this is where our integer rules really come into play, because we've got 2 times negative 2, which actually gives me a negative 4. We've got negative 4 plus positive 3. Well, if our signs are different, then we subtract our numbers and we end up with negative 1. Okay. So then our x value changes. It's now a negative 1. So we're going to do 2 times negative 1 plus 3. So 2 times negative 1 gives us negative 2. We're going to add 3 to that. So again, our signs are different. So we subtract and we end up with positive 1. Now our x value changes once again. It changes to a 0. So we have 2 times 0 plus 3. Well, 2 times 0 is 0. And then 0 plus 3 gives us 3. Now once you find 3 values, this can determine a pattern. So if we just look at what is going on from one number to the next, between negative 1 to 1, we're counting by 2. From 1 to 3, we're counting by 2. So that means from 3 to the next one, we're going to count by 2 again, and we end up with 5, and then 7, and then 9. So once you find 3 x values, or once you've evaluated 3 x values, we can find a pattern with the answers that we've come up with, which we'll eventually call our y values. Okay, so once we find our pattern, we can then use that pattern to determine the next few in that t-chart. So let's see if we can do another one here. So let's try another one. Here we've got 3x minus 2 that we're going to evaluate. So again, what does this t-chart say? It says if, just kind of imagine an if right there, if x is negative 2, then 3x minus 2 is what? Well, one of the things that will help you when we're dealing with expressions is that if we have a minus, to go ahead and change it. If you remember in class, anytime we dealt with integers, we didn't do minus, we LCO'd it. We left the first number alone, we changed subtraction to addition, and the next number to its opposite. And this will help prevent careless mistakes. So now we take our first x value of negative 2, plug that in, 3 times negative 2 plus negative 2. We use our integer rules. 3 times negative 2 gives us negative 6. Negative 6 plus negative 2 gives us a negative 8. Okay. Then we go to the next one. X is now negative 1. So 3 times negative 1 plus negative 2. Well, 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Negative 3 plus negative 2 gives us a negative 5. And then we have 0. 3 times 0 plus negative 2. Well, anything times 0 is 0. Plus negative 2 is negative 2. So what are we doing here? We're counting by 3, or we're increasing by 3. So we increase negative 2 by 3, and we end up with 1, and then 4. So let's try one more, and then we'll end the video. So here we have one that is negative 2x plus 6. So again, if x is negative 2, then negative 2x plus 6 is what? Well, we take the first x value, plug it in. Negative 2 times negative 2 plus 6. Well, negative 2 and negative 2 actually make positive 4. Positive 4 and 6 make 10. Now our x value is negative 1. So negative 2 times negative 1 plus 6. Again, two negatives here make a positive. So negative 2 times negative 1 is 2. Plus 6 gives us 8. Now we have 0. Negative 2 times 0 plus 6. We get negative 2 times 0 is 0, plus 6 gives us 6. So what are we doing here? We're actually decreasing by 2, or subtracting 2. Okay, so subtract 2 from 6, you get 4. Subtract 2 more, you get 2. And that's how you evaluate expressions using a T-chart.